Yeah, I'll jump in first, sorry. I welcome the opportunity to contribute to the statements today on the British relationship with the European Union. I must say I find it very interesting to hear deputies on the government benches talking about how important it is for the 500,000 British citizens who live in the Republic to exercise their right to vote and vote not to leave the European Union. Particularly when you look at over the last 5 years, the government resisted totally the possibility of giving votes to our own emigrants, so that the 600,000 Irish-born people living in England could actually vote and participate in our own democracy here. And also, as Deputy Corkin Kennedy has left the chamber, but in her contribution she talked about crossing the border in Fermanagh and seeing the British Army on the border there. And the reality is that we were in the EU, and the Brits were in the EU as well when that was going on. So, I mean, that has no bearing at all on whether England votes to leave the European Union or not. And actually, as well, in the common travel area, we had free travel before we ever joined the European Union, and or the EEC as it was in 1973. So there was no passport controls, there was no travel restrictions since, I think it goes back to 1949, that the common travel area is in existence. And, I mean, Teresa Villiers would be no friend of mine, but she even laid it out clearly at the weekend that in fact the common travel area predates the European Union, and if there is a Brexit vote, that it will actually make no difference to that arrangement with England that exists for us. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of scaremongering going on. I think there's a lot of falsities put out there, and I think also the tone of all the discussion and the debate from everybody who's against Brexit is talking totally about economics and economic relationship, and that, for me, I think is a symbol of what actually this society that we live in has become. We've become an economy, and the only thing we're interested in, and the only thing our government is interested in, is the economics and trade and how GDP and GNP can be affected, more so than how our citizens are affected or anything else. While I don't agree with the reasons why the British have decided to have a vote on the European Union, I do hope that they vote to leave, because anything that brings forward the end of the European Union, in my view, would be a good idea. And if that speeds it up, I think it's something that would be welcomed and should be welcomed. Because all we have to do is look at the history of the European Union over the last number of years. Very recently, we see this Turkey treaty signed with Turkey about the removal of refugees and immigrants from Greece back to Turkey. And we see that the European Union has declared Turkey as a safe country. Turkey is not a very safe country if you're a Kurd. It's not a very safe country if you're a Syrian refugee who actually flees into Turkey to get away from the ISIS and the Assad regime and the slaughter that they're laying out against their own citizens. Hundreds of Syrian refugees are turned back every week. In the last year, dozens of Syrian refugees have been shot dead on the border by Turkish border guards. The Turkish government has been bombing Kurdish villages and Kurdish towns inside Turkey for the last year, but yet there's no mention of that anywhere around here at all. So this great democratic, peaceful union that we talk about does a deal with Turkey to get rid of refugees and people who need our protection, to get rid of them and get them back into a country that doesn't respect their rights, where they're not safe, and we are quite happy to go along with that. Indeed, then, over the last few years, if you look at this great union and what it has done in terms of carrying out 2 coups within its own member states, where they deposed an elected government in Greece and deposed an elected government in Italy because it didn't suit the great economic agenda of the European Central Bank and the European Commission. And that is the kind of union that we want everybody to stay in and we want everybody to be part of, not to mention the ideals and the move within the European Union towards the creation of a European army, and to the great vision that Manuel Barroso had of the European Union in 2007, when he said that we now have all the trappings of empire. And that is what we want to participate in, and what we say that should be what we should be encouraging and calling on people in England to vote in favour of. I believe we should leave the English people to make their own decisions, and our own citizens in the 6 counties as well to make their own decisions. I believe the sky won't fall in if they vote to leave, and there will be trade deals done that will actually protect our situation, and we should let them make their own decisions, and hopefully we can see the end of this union completely.
Thank you.